My name is Catherine, 28 years old, and I was supposed to be the happiest bride on that autumn day. After a year of meticulous planning, my perfect wedding was just hours away. Growing up with Jessica, my older sister who was always our parents' favorite, I should have seen the warning signs. But nothing could have prepared me for the violent confrontation that would unfold in my hotel room that morning. Before I take you through the most traumatic day of what should have been my happiest moment, let me know where you are watching from and hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you will want to hear how my husband turned this nightmare into something I never expected. I met Jackson 3 years ago at a charity concert benefiting animal shelters across our state. I remember everything about that night: the soft glow of string lights hanging above the outdoor venue, the gentle breeze carrying the scent of wildflowers, and the way Jackson kept stealing glances at me from across the crowded space. Eventually, he worked up the courage to approach me during intermission. "I noticed you were the only one who stood up and applauded after the cello solo," he said with a warm smile that immediately made me feel at ease. "Most people save that kind of enthusiasm for the finale." I laughed, slightly embarrassed by my enthusiasm. I played cello in high school. I know exactly how difficult that piece is. That simple exchange sparked a conversation that lasted through the rest of the concert and well into the night at a nearby coffee shop. Jackson was passionate, intelligent, and genuinely kind, in a way that made me feel seen for who I truly was. As a veterinarian at a busy animal hospital, Jackson possessed an endless well of compassion that extended to every living creature. I fell in love watching him tenderly treat a wounded stray cat someone brought to his clinic after hours. The way he spoke softly to the frightened animal while carefully examining its injuries told me everything I needed to know about his character. Our relationship progressed naturally, each day deepening our connection. Whether we were hiking trails with rescue dogs from the shelter, cooking elaborate dinners in my tiny apartment kitchen, or simply enjoying quiet evenings discussing our dreams, I knew I had found something rare and precious. On our second anniversary, Jackson took me back to that same concert venue, now empty and specially reserved for just the two of us. He had arranged for a cellist to play the exact solo that had first brought us together. As the final note hung in the air, Jackson knelt before me, presenting a delicate vintage ring. "Catherine," he said, voice trembling slightly, "you brought music into my life when I needed it most. Would you compose the rest of our life's symphony with me?" Through tears of joy, I said yes without hesitation. It was perfect because it was us, thoughtful, meaningful, and deeply personal. I immediately called my parents, hoping they would share my happiness. Their response should have been my first warning. "Well, it's about time," my mother said flatly. "Jessica will be disappointed she is still single while her younger sister gets engaged." That single comment embodied the dynamic that had defined my family since childhood. Jessica, 4 years my senior, had always been the golden child. My parents never tried to hide their preference, instead displaying it openly for as long as I could remember. When we were children, Jessica received lavish birthday parties with professional entertainers and custom cakes, while mine were simple affairs often forgotten until the last minute. In school, my straight A's were met with passing nods, while Jessica's B's and C's earned excessive praise and rewards. I still remember bringing home a first-place trophy from a state piano competition when I was 12. My mother glanced at it briefly before returning her attention to helping Jessica prepare for a routine school presentation. My father simply said, "That's nice, Catherine," without even looking up from his newspaper. As we grew older, the pattern continued. Jessica dropped out of college after 2 years, claiming it wasn't her thing, and my parents supported her decision completely. Meanwhile, I worked multiple jobs to put myself through business school, receiving neither financial assistance nor acknowledgement of my achievements. Through it all, I kept trying to earn their approval. I convinced myself that if I just accomplished enough, they would finally see me as worthy of the same love and attention they showered on Jessica. But no matter what I achieved, the goalposts constantly moved. My relationship with Jessica herself was equally strained. Growing up, she would regularly take my belongings without asking, blame me for her mistakes, and occasionally sabotage my friendships by spreading rumors. If I ever complained to our parents, they would accuse me of jealousy and tell me to be more generous with my sister. Despite all this, I held on to hope that my wedding might be different. Perhaps this momentous life event would finally be about me. Maybe, Just maybe. My family would set aside their dynamics for one day and simply be happy for me. Jackson, aware of my complicated family history, gently suggested we elope. We could fly to Hawaii, say our vows at sunset, and avoid the whole production, he offered one evening as I stressed over guest lists. But something in me wanted the traditional wedding, with my father walking me down the aisle and my mother helping me prepare. I wanted what so many daughters take for granted, family support on one of the most important days of my life. I wanted to prove to myself that I was worthy of celebration. I understand, Jackson said, holding me close. But remember, whatever happens with your family, we are starting our own now. You will always be the most important person in my world. Those words became my anchor in the storms that followed. Planning our wedding became my passion project. I created detailed spreadsheets, comparison charts for vendors, and inspiration boards for every aspect of the celebration. After visiting 12 potential venues, we finally found the perfect location, Oak Ridge Farm, a restored 19th century property with sprawling gardens, a renovated barn draped in twinkling lights, and a breathtaking view of rolling hills that turned golden in the autumn Sunday. "This is it," I whispered to Jackson as we stood on the crest of a hill overlooking the property. "I can see us saying our vows right here, with the sunset behind us." The venue was booked solid for nearly 2 years, but through a stroke of luck, another couple had canceled their reservation for October 10th. We placed our deposit immediately, securing the date exactly 1 year away. With the venue settled, everything else began falling into place. I found a dress that made me feel like the most beautiful version of myself. An off-shoulder line gown with delicate lace detailing and a modest train. For flowers, I chose seasonal arrangements with deep burgundies, burnt oranges, and touches of gold to complement the autumn landscape. My mother declined to join me for dress shopping, claiming she had a standing hair appointment she could not reschedule. When I sent her photos of my chosen gown, her response was tepid at best. "Are you sure that silhouette flatters your figure?" Despite these disappointments, I pressed forward with enthusiasm. I asked my 2 closest friends, Laura and Samantha, to be my bridesmaids, and naturally, I extended the maid of honor invitation to Jessica, hoping this gesture might improve our relationship. Jessica's response came 3 days later via text. "I guess. What are the dresses like? Nothing unflattering." From that point forward, including Jessica in the wedding planning, became an exercise in frustration. She arrived 45 minutes late to the bridesmaid dress fitting, complained that the burgundy color I had selected washed out her complexion, and suggested we change the entire color scheme to accommodate her preferences. "These dresses look like something from a horror movie prom," she remarked loudly in the boutique, causing the consultant to exchange uncomfortable glances with my friends. "Why are you so obsessed with this depressing fall theme anyway?" For the bridal shower that Laura and Samantha thoughtfully organized, Jessica arrived late, left early, and managed to redirect several conversations to focus on her recent promotion at work. When it came time for toasts, she spoke for barely 30 seconds, focusing mostly on how surprising it was that I was getting married first, since she was always the popular one in school. My parents were equally disengaged. My father questioned every expenditure, not from a place of financial concern, but with thinly veiled criticism about wasting money. My mother repeatedly mentioned how Jessica had always dreamed of a fall wedding at a venue just like Oak Ridge Farm. "It is such a coincidence that you chose the exact kind of wedding Jessica has been planning in her dream book since she was 16, she commented during our rare wedding discussions. I brushed these comments aside, reminding myself that this day was about Jackson and me, not about my family dynamics. Still, I could not help but notice the increasing frequency of pointed remarks as our wedding date approached. Approximately 6 months before our wedding, Jessica went through a breakup with her boyfriend of 8 months, Thomas. Although I had only met him twice, they seemed well matched, and the split appeared sudden. Jessica offered no details beyond calling him another disappointment and declaring she was better off alone. This breakup seemed to intensify my parents' discomfort with my upcoming nuptials. Comments about me getting married before my sister became more frequent, accompanied by reminders that Jessica was more social and had many more relationships than I ever did. "It is just unusual for the younger sister to find someone first," my mother remarked during a family dinner, as if Jackson and I had somehow violated a natural order. Following her breakup, Jessica began dating at a frantic pace. Each family gathering featured updates about a new man in her life, with my parents showing excessive interest in each prospect, no matter how clearly unsuitable or temporary the relationship seemed. Then, just 3 weeks before our wedding, Jessica brought Andrew to Sunday dinner. I had never heard his name before, yet they announced they were seriously dating. Andrew was polite but quiet, revealing little about himself beyond working in finance and having recently moved to the area. My parents treated him like royalty, hanging on his every word and telling embarrassing stories from my childhood as if to entertain him. 2 days after this dinner, my mother called, her voice bubbling with excitement. "Jessica and Andrew are engaged. Isn't it wonderful?" After only knowing each other for such a short time. But when you know, you know. The timing struck me as odd, even suspicious, but I offered sincere congratulations. Jessica had found someone who made her happy, and perhaps now she could genuinely share in my joy rather than competing with it. How naive I was. 2 weeks before our wedding, my parents called requesting an urgent family meeting at their house. The serious tone in my father's voice sent an uneasy feeling through my body, but I agreed to come, assuming they wanted to discuss some last-minute wedding details. When I arrived, I found not only my parents waiting in the living room, but also Jessica and Andrew, seated side by side on the sofa. Jessica wore an expression I recognized from childhood, the smug smile that appeared whenever she knew she was about to get her way at my expense. "Catherine, please sit down," my father began formally, gesturing to the armchair across from them. "We have an important family matter to discuss." I perched on the edge of the chair, suddenly feeling like I was 12 again, called in to be reprimanded for some invented transgression. "Is everything okay?" My mother reached over to pat Jessica's hand. "Your sister and Andrew have some exciting news about their wedding plans." Andrew shifted uncomfortably as Jessica beamed. "We want to get married right away," she announced. "Andrew has been offered an amazing promotion, but it requires relocating next month. We do not want to move without being married first." "That's great," I said cautiously, unsure why this required an emergency meeting. "Congratulations on the promotion, Andrew." My father cleared his throat. "Here's the situation, Catherine. Jessica and Andrew need to have their wedding within the next 3 weeks before they relocate. And, as you know, wedding venues are booked months, even years in advance." A cold understanding began to dawn on me, but it seemed so absurd that I could not quite believe it until my mother spoke. "We have the perfect solution," she said brightly. "Since you already have Oak Ridge Farm reserved for next weekend, along with the caterer, florist, and everything else, we thought you and Jackson could postpone your wedding for a few months to let Jessica and Andrew use your arrangements." The room fell silent as I stared at them in disbelief. "You want me to cancel my wedding 10 days before it happens, so Jessica can use our venue?" Jessica leaned forward. "It would not be canceling, just postponing, and it makes perfect sense. I have always wanted a fall wedding at a place exactly like Oak Ridge. You know I have dreamed of it since I was a teenager. This promotion is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for Andrew. We cannot wait 6 months or a year to get married." "But we have guests coming from across the country," I protested, my voice rising. "We have non-refundable deposits. Our honeymoon flights are booked." "This is not just an inconvenience. It is impossible." My father waved away my concerns. "We will cover any fees for changing dates, and people will understand about rebooking travel. Family emergencies happen." "This is not an emergency," I said, struggling to maintain my composure. "This is Jessica wanting what I have." Again, Jessica's face hardened. "That is so selfish, Catherine. After everything I have done for you growing up, all the times I let you tag along with my friends, all the clothes I gave you when I outgrew them, all the attention I shared with you. The one time I ask for something important, you refuse?" The revisionist history was staggering. Jessica had never willingly shared anything with me. The hand, me, downs were items she had discarded after ruining them. The attention had never been shared. She had monopolized it completely. "I am sorry, but no," I said firmly. "Jackson and I have been planning this for a year. We are not changing our date." My mother's expression turned cold. "I cannot believe you would do this to your sister. After we have supported you your entire life, this is how you repay us? By denying Jessica her happiness? The conversation deteriorated rapidly from there. My parents brought up every perceived debt I owed the family, every sacrifice they claimed to have made for me, most of which were standard parental obligations, and repeatedly emphasized how this stubbornness proved I had always been the difficult child. When I called Jackson to tell him what was happening, he immediately offered to join me. 20 minutes later, he arrived at my parents' house, calm but determined. "Mr. and Mrs. Davis, I understand this is a family matter, but as Catherine's future husband, I need to support her in this," he began respectfully. "We simply cannot change our wedding plans at this point. Perhaps we can help Jessica and Andrew find another venue that might have had a cancellation." Jessica scoffed. "Of course you would take her side. You have turned her against her family ever since you started dating." My father stood, towering over Jackson. "Young man, you do not understand how our family works. Catherine has always been taught to consider her sister's needs. This selfish streak is new, and I can only assume it comes from your influence." To his credit, Jackson remained composed. "With all due respect, sir, asking someone to cancel their wedding for another person's convenience goes well beyond normal family consideration. Catherine and I are willing to help in any other way we can, but we will be getting married next Saturday as planned." My mother began to cry theatrical tears. I never thought I would see the day when my daughter would choose an outsider over her own blood. We left shortly after, with the issue unresolved but our position clear. The following days brought an onslaught of emotional manipulation, dozens of texts and calls from my parents and Jessica, ranging from guilt, tripping to outright threats of being cut off from the family. "If you go through with this wedding instead of helping your sister, do not expect us to be there," my father warned in his final call, "and do not expect to be welcomed back into this family." Despite the emotional toll, Jackson and I stood firm. We contacted our venue and vendors to alert them to potential disruptions and hired additional security for the wedding day as a precaution. Through it all, Jackson remained my rock, reminding me that we were creating our own family now, one built on mutual respect and genuine love. "Whatever happens on Saturday," he promised, "you will not face it alone. We will get through this together." I clung to those words as our wedding day approached, unaware of just how severely my resolve would be tested. The morning of my wedding day dawned crisp and clear, with autumn sunlight streaming through the hotel room windows. Despite the tension with my family, I felt a surge of excitement. In just a few hours, I would be marrying the love of my life. Laura and Samantha arrived early, arms loaded with coffee, pastries, and champagne. The hairstylist and makeup artist followed shortly after, transforming the hotel suite into an impromptu bridal salon. For a blissful hour, surrounded by my closest friends, I allowed myself to forget the family drama and simply enjoy being a bride. "You look absolutely stunning," Laura said as the makeup artist applied the finishing touches. "Jackson is going to cry when he sees you." I was just about to slip into my wedding dress when an aggressive knock shattered our peaceful morning. The three of us exchanged worried glances, immediately suspecting who it might be. Samantha peeked through the peephole and confirmed my fears. "It is your parents," she whispered, "and Jessica is with them." My heart sank, but I took a deep breath. Let them in. Maybe they have come to apologize and attend the wedding after all. As soon as the door opened, my mother burst in, followed closely by my father and Jessica. They barely acknowledged Laura and Samantha, or the stunned makeup artist and hairstylist who froze in the middle of packing up their supplies. "We need to speak with Catherine." "Alone," my father announced, his tone leaving no room for negotiation. "Whatever you need to say can be said in front of my friends," I replied, tightening the sash of my robe around my waist. My mother glared at Laura and Samantha. "This is family business." Reluctantly, not wanting to escalate the situation, I nodded to my friends. "It is okay. Give us a few minutes, but please stay close by." With obvious hesitation, my bridesmaid stepped into the adjoining room, leaving the door slightly ajar. I noticed Laura discreetly positioning her phone on a side table before she left, its camera facing us. The makeup artist and hairstylist quickly gathered their remaining supplies and exited, throwing sympathetic glances my way. Once they were gone, my mother began without preamble. "Catherine, this has gone far enough. We are giving you one last chance to do the right thing." "The right thing?" I echoed incredulously. "You mean canceling my wedding hours before it is supposed to start?" My father stepped forward. Jessica and Andrew have everything ready. They can take over your arrangements seamlessly. All the guests already know the time and place. Those guests came to see me marry Jackson, I said, struggling to keep my voice steady, not to witness Jessica's impromptu wedding. Jessica moved closer, her engagement ring prominently displayed on her finger. The diamond was noticeably larger than mine, a detail I was sure had not happened by coincidence. "Catherine, stop being so dramatic," she said dismissively. "You can have another wedding in a few months. This is urgent for us. Andrew's promotion will not wait." I turned to Andrew, who had remained silent by the door. "Is this really what you want? To take over someone else's wedding?" He looked uncomfortable but said nothing, deferring to Jessica with an apologetic shrug. "This is our final offer," my father declared. "Postpone your wedding today or consider your relationship with this family terminated." The ultimatum hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. For a moment, I thought about the little girl I had been, constantly seeking approval, constantly being overlooked. How many times had I compromised my own happiness to keep the peace? How many times had I accepted scraps of attention while Jessica feasted on my parents' adoration? "No," I said, my voice stronger than I expected. "I am marrying Jackson today, as planned. If you cannot support that, then you are right. Our relationship will change. But it will be your choice, not mine." My mother gasped as if I had slapped her. My father's face turned an alarming shade of red. But it was Jessica whose reaction truly frightened me. Her features contorted with a rage I had never witnessed before, not even during our worst childhood fights. "You ungrateful little brat," she hissed. "You have always been jealous of me, always trying to steal my spotlight. This should have been my special time, but you had to get engaged first, plan a wedding first, take the venue I always wanted." I turned away, unwilling to engage further. "I think you should leave now. The ceremony starts in 3 hours, and I need to finish getting ready." As I moved toward the adjoining room to call my friends back in, I heard a swift movement behind me. Before I could react, Jessica had pulled something from her purse, a small canister that I recognized with immediate horror. It was a perfume containing jasmine oil, the same fragrance I had been severely allergic to since childhood. My allergy was well documented and serious. Even brief exposure caused painful rashes and respiratory distress. Jessica had witnessed my reactions firsthand growing up, including one particularly severe incident that had sent me to the emergency room. "Jessica, no!" I gasped, raising my hands protectively. But I was too late. With deliberate malice, she aimed the canister directly at my face and sprayed. The mist hit my skin and immediately began to burn. I screamed in pain as the chemicals made contact with my eyes, nose, and mouth. The effect was instantaneous and excruciating. My skin felt like it was on fire, red welts rising across my cheeks and forehead. My eyes swelled, tears streaming down my face, not from emotion but from the severe irritation. My throat began to constrict, each breath becoming increasingly difficult. "What have you done?" I heard Laura shout as she rushed back into the room. Samantha followed close behind, gasping in horror at my rapidly deteriorating condition. "Call 911!" Samantha yelled, rushing to my side as I collapsed onto the edge of the bed, wheezing and clawing at my throat. My vision blurred, but I could make out Jessica standing there, the empty perfume bottle still in her hand, a look of satisfaction on her face. Rather than showing any remorse, she turned to our parents and said calmly, "Well, I guess she will have to postpone the wedding now." My father and mother stood frozen, seemingly shocked by the severity of my reaction, but neither moved to help me or to reprimand Jessica. Laura was already on the phone with emergency services, while simultaneously calling Jackson. Samantha rummaged through my toiletry bag, locating the emergency antihistamine I always carried. But the spray had been so direct, so concentrated, that the medication would only slightly mitigate the symptoms. Through my pain and growing panic as my airway continued to narrow, I heard my mother finally speak. "Jessica, perhaps you went too far." "Too far?" Jessica scoffed. "She brought this on herself. If she had just been reasonable, none of this would have happened." As the room began to spin around me, I realized with perfect clarity what had just occurred. This was not a spontaneous act of rage. Jessica had come prepared with the exact substance she knew would cause me the most harm. She had brought the perfume deliberately, intending to use it if I did not comply with their demands. This was premeditated. The last thing I remember before the paramedics arrived was Andrew's horrified expression as he finally seemed to understand the family he was planning to marry into. Then darkness claimed me, along with the devastating realization that my wedding day, the day I had planned for a year and dreamed of my entire life, was now ruined. I drifted in and out of consciousness in the ambulance, vaguely aware of oxygen being administered and medications being injected. The burning sensation across my face had dulled to a throbbing ache, but my skin felt tight and swollen, nearly unrecognizable to my exploring fingertips. When I fully regained consciousness in the emergency room, Jackson was by my side, his face etched with concern, but also something else, a determined resolve I had never seen before. "Catherine," he said softly, taking my hand carefully to avoid disturbing the IV line. "How are you feeling?" "Like my face is twice its normal size," I croaked, my throat still raw from the reaction, "and like my wedding day is ruined." A doctor approached, chart in hand. "The epinephrine has controlled the anaphylaxis, but you are still experiencing significant dermal inflammation. We will keep you for observation for at least 4 to 6 hours to ensure there is no relapse of respiratory symptoms." Fresh tears welled in my eyes, not from the physical pain, but from the realization that in a few hours, I should have been walking down the aisle. Instead, I was in a hospital bed, my face disfigured by angry red welts. "I am so sorry, Jackson," I whispered. "All those months of planning, all our guests." Jackson squeezed my hand, a surprising smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Catherine, do not apologize. What happened was not your fault. And about the wedding, do not worry." "Do not worry? How can I not worry? We have to cancel everything. Call the venue, the caterer, notify all the guests." "Actually," Jackson interrupted gently, "I have already been in touch with the venue, and with Michael." Michael was Jackson's best friend from veterinary school, and, more relevantly, a highly respected attorney. "Michael? Why would you call him?" "Because what Jessica did was assault," Jackson replied, his voice calm but firm. "It was premeditated and malicious, and we have evidence." "Evidence?" Laura stepped forward from where she had been standing quietly by the door. "I started recording on my phone as soon as they arrived," she explained. "I had a bad feeling about why they were there. I captured everything, the ultimatum, your refusal, and Jessica deliberately spraying you with a substance she knew would cause this reaction. I closed my eyes, processing this information. But even with evidence, the wedding is still ruined. Look at me, Jackson. I cannot walk down the aisle like this." That was when Jackson revealed his plan, one that showcased not just his love for me but a strategic brilliance I had never fully appreciated before. "The ceremony is delayed, not canceled," he explained. "Michael is handling the legal aspects. He has already filed for an emergency restraining order against Jessica based on the video evidence. The police have been notified and will be taking statements later today." "Meanwhile," Laura continued, picking up where Jackson left off, "Samantha is at the venue explaining the situation to the coordinator. They have agreed to push the ceremony back by 4 hours, and all the vendors have been notified. The guests received a mass text through our wedding app explaining there's been a medical emergency. But the celebration will still happen, just later than planned." I stared at them in disbelief. "But Jackson, even if we delay, I still look like this." I gestured helplessly to my swollen face. "I cannot get married looking like I lost a fight with a beehive." Jackson smiled. "That's why Dr. Amanda Cooper is waiting outside. She's a dermatologist who specializes in acute allergic reactions, and a client of mine, I treated her golden retriever last month for hip dysplasia. She owes me a favor and is here to help minimize the visible effects of the reaction." As if on cue, a professional-looking woman in her 40s entered the room, carrying a medical bag. "Catherine? I am Dr. Cooper. Jackson called me about your situation. With your emergency physician's approval, I believe I can help reduce the swelling and inflammation significantly within the next few hours." I looked from Jackson to Laura to Dr. Cooper, overwhelmed by their efforts. "You have all been planning this while I was unconscious?" "That's not all," Jackson added. "Michael has been coordinating with the hotel security team to ensure Jessica and your parents cannot disrupt the ceremony or reception. Based on the video evidence, they have agreed to bar them from the property. Meanwhile, Dr. Cooper had begun examining my face and neck, her expression professional and reassuring. The antihistamines are already reducing some of the internal swelling. I have several topical treatments that will help with the external manifestations, and I have contacted a friend who is a professional makeup artist specializing in corrective cosmetics for film productions. She can work wonders once the medical treatments have taken effect. Through my tears, now of gratitude rather than despair, I looked at Jackson. "You organized all of this in just a few hours?" He smiled, brushing a strand of hair gently from my forehead. "That's what partners do, Catherine. We solve problems together. I promised you we would get married today, and we will. It might not look exactly as we planned, but all that matters is that by tonight, you will be my wife." Laura squeezed my shoulder. "And the best part? While you were being treated, Michael found something interesting on Jessica's phone." "Her phone?" "She left her purse behind in all the chaos after you collapsed," Laura explained. Michael noticed text messages clearly visible on the screen. "Messages to your mother from 3 days ago discussing bringing the perfume to convince you." "Which means," Jackson added, "we have proof this was premeditated." Michael says that elevates the potential charges significantly. As Dr. Cooper began applying cooling treatments to my inflamed skin, I processed everything they were telling me. My family had conspired to ruin my wedding day, willing to cause me physical harm to get their way. The realization should have crushed me, but instead, I felt an unexpected sense of liberation. The people who truly loved me were right here, fighting for my happiness, working miracles to salvage our special day. Over the next few hours, Dr. Cooper's treatments gradually reduced the swelling and redness. The makeup artist she summoned performed what could only be described as sorcery, transforming my still, recovering skin into a remarkably smooth canvas. Though not completely back to normal, the difference was astonishing. "It is not perfect," the makeup artist admitted, showing me the results in a mirror. "But from a distance, and in photographs, no one will notice. And we can touch up as needed throughout the event." Looking at my reflection, I saw beyond the subtle remnants of the attack to what truly mattered. "It is more than enough," I said firmly. "Let's go get married." The autumn sun was beginning its descent, casting a golden glow across Oak Ridge Farm as we arrived. Despite being 4 hours behind schedule, nearly all our guests had waited, their support overwhelming me as I stepped from the car. Jackson had gone ahead to the venue while I was being discharged from the hospital, ensuring everything was prepared for our delayed but determined ceremony. Laura helped adjust my veil, carefully arranging it to provide additional coverage for the areas of my face still showing signs of the allergic reaction. "The lighting is perfect now," she assured me. "With the sunset behind you during the ceremony, you will look absolutely radiant." As I prepared in the farmhouse bridal suite, Samantha burst in, her expression tense. "Catherine, you should know. Your family is here." My heart stuttered. "What?" But Michael got a restraining order. "It has not been fully processed yet," she explained. "They arrived about 20 minutes ago. Your parents are sitting in the back row, and Jessica is with them. Andrew is here too, looking extremely uncomfortable." I closed my eyes, processing this unwelcome development. Part of me had hoped they would stay away out of shame, but clearly, Jessica was not finished. "Jackson knows," Samantha continued. "He and Michael have arranged for 2 security guards to keep an eye on them. If they cause any disruption, they will be removed immediately." Laura squeezed my hand. "Do you want to proceed? We can delay further if you need time." Taking a deep breath, I straightened my shoulders. No more delays. This is my wedding day, and I have waited long enough. Jackson had planned one additional precaution, as I soon discovered. A large screen had been set up near the altar, ostensibly for a photo slideshow during the reception. Michael stood nearby with Laura's phone, containing the incriminating video, ready to be played if necessary. The ceremony began as the setting sun painted the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink. From the back of the aisle, I could see my parents and Jessica seated exactly where Samantha had indicated. My mother looked tense, my father stoic, and Jessica wore an expression of barely concealed anger. But as the first notes of the processional music began, I shifted my gaze to the front, where Jackson waited. His face, filled with love and unwavering support, erased all other concerns from my mind. This moment was ours, and nothing would taint it further. Walking down the aisle alone, having declined my father's traditional role months earlier when tensions first began, I felt stronger with each step. The guests rose, many with tears in their eyes, aware of the morning's events through the grapevine of whispers that inevitably spreads at such gatherings. When I reached Jackson, he took my hands in his, whispering, "You are the most beautiful bride I have ever seen." The ceremony proceeded smoothly until we reached the traditional moment where the officiant asked, "If anyone can show just cause why this couple cannot lawfully be joined together in matrimony, let them speak now, or forever hold their peace." A tension fell over the gathering. I held my breath, and Jackson squeezed my hands reassuringly. Then came the sound I had been dreading, Jessica's voice, loud and clear from the back row. "I object," she announced dramatically, standing up. "This wedding is a farce. Catherine manipulated everyone into feeling sorry for her this morning. She deliberately provoked me, knowing how important today was supposed to be for me and Andrew." Gasps and murmurs rippled through the assembled guests. The security guards began moving toward Jessica, but Michael stepped forward first, raising a hand to stop them. "I expected this," he said calmly, approaching the screen, "and we came prepared." With a nod from Jackson, Michael connected Laura's phone to the display system. "Before Miss Davis continues her objection, I believe the guests should see exactly what happened this morning." The video began playing, crystal clear and damning. The entire confrontation unfolded before our guests. My parents' ultimatum, my calm refusal, Jessica's calculated attack, and her chilling words afterward. "Well, I guess she will have to postpone the wedding now." The silence that followed was deafening. Every eye turned to Jessica, who stood frozen, her face drained of color as her premeditated assault was exposed to everyone. Then, from beside her, Andrew stood up. His voice shook slightly, but carried clearly across the stunned gathering. "I cannot do this anymore," he declared, not to the crowd but directly to Jessica. "I had no idea about any of this, the demands to take over the wedding, the deliberate assault. This is not the person I thought I was engaged to." With deliberate movements, he removed the simple gold band from his left hand and placed it on the seat beside Jessica. "The engagement is off. I want nothing to do with this toxic dynamic." Jessica's face contorted with rage and humiliation. "Andrew, you cannot be serious. They are manipulating you too." But Andrew was already walking away, pausing only to look back at the gathering. "I apologize for the disruption. Please, continue with this beautiful ceremony. Catherine and Jackson clearly deserve every happiness." My father stood next, his face ashen. "Jessica, that's enough. We are leaving. Now." For once, his stern tone was directed not at me but at his favorite daughter. As the security guards escorted my family out, an awkward silence hung over the ceremony. The officiant looked uncertain how to proceed after such an unprecedented interruption. It was Jackson who saved the moment. With a gentle smile, he turned to our guests. "Well, I think we can all agree that technically, no valid objection was raised. So, if it is all right with everyone, I would very much like to marry Catherine now." A wave of laughter broke the tension, followed by spontaneous applause. The officiant, visibly relieved, continued with the ceremony. We exchanged vows that now carried even deeper meaning, promises to stand by each other through whatever challenges life presented, to be each other's sanctuary and strength. When Jackson slipped the wedding band onto my finger, his hands were steady, his eyes never leaving mine. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," the officiant declared. "You may kiss the bride." As Jackson's lips met mine, the gathering erupted in cheers that seemed to celebrate not just our union, but the triumph of love over malice, of dignity over cruelty. The reception that followed was everything I had dreamed of and more. Without my family's toxic presence, I found myself truly relaxing for perhaps the first time in years. Jackson never left my side, periodically checking that I was comfortable and that my medication schedule was maintained to prevent any recurrence of symptoms. Halfway through the evening, Andrew approached our table, looking hesitant. "I wanted to apologize again," he said quietly. "I had no idea what Jessica was planning. She told me her sister was selfishly refusing to accommodate our needs, but I never imagined what I saw in that video." "It's not your fault," I assured him. Jessica has had decades to perfect her manipulation tactics. He nodded solemnly. I noticed red flags, but I ignored them. She told me her parents had always favored you, that you were jealous of her success. It all seemed so plausible until today. He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. I ended things completely. The promotion she mentioned? It doesn't exist. That was just another lie to force the wedding date change. This final revelation should have shocked me, but somehow, it only confirmed what I already knew. The depths of Jessica's determination to take what was mine had no limits. As Andrew walked away, Jackson pulled me close. Are you okay? I considered the question seriously. My face still burned slightly beneath the makeup. My family had revealed themselves as willing to harm me for Jessica's whims. Yet surrounded by friends who had moved heaven and earth to save our special day, with my new husband by my side, I felt something unexpected. Peace. I'm more than okay, I replied truthfully. For the first time, I feel completely free. The weeks following our wedding were a mixture of joy and painful reckoning. Jackson and I postponed our honeymoon to Bali by 2 weeks to deal with the legal aftermath of Jessica's assault. With Laura's video evidence and multiple witness statements, the case was straightforward. Jessica was charged with assault and battery, though her expensive lawyer, hired by my parents, managed to negotiate a plea deal resulting in probation rather than jail time. I made the difficult but necessary decision to cut contact with my family entirely. No more holidays pretending everything was fine, no more accepting scraps of affection, no more allowing myself to be the family scapegoat. Initially, my parents attempted to minimize what had happened, sending messages suggesting I was overreacting and should put family first by dropping the charges against Jessica. When these appeals failed, they switched to guilt tactics, reminding me of all they had supposedly sacrificed for me over the years. Finally, they resorted to threats, warning that I would be removed from their will and never welcome in their home again. Each message only solidified my resolve. With Jackson's unwavering support and weekly sessions with a therapist specializing in family trauma, I began the painful process of recognizing and processing the emotional abuse I had normalized throughout my life. Andrew reached out several times in the months that followed, sharing information that helped me understand the fuller picture. Jessica had systematically lied to him throughout their short relationship, creating a fictional narrative where she was the successful, responsible sister constantly overshadowed by her demanding, jealous younger sibling. She had even claimed that Oak Ridge Farm had been her dream venue first, and that I had deliberately booked it to spite her. The more I learn about your history with her, he wrote in one email, the more I realize how close I came to making a terrible mistake. Thank you for inadvertently saving me from that future. As for Jackson and me, we focused on building our life together. We bought a small house with a generous yard where Jackson could occasionally bring home recovering animals from his practice. I poured my energy into my work as a marketing director for a sustainable products company, finding satisfaction in creating campaigns that aligned with my values. More importantly, we created a chosen family around us, friends who demonstrated their love through actions rather than obligations. Our home became a gathering place for holidays and casual weekend barbecues, filled with laughter and genuine warmth. For the first time, I experienced what unconditional love and support truly felt like. 1 year after our wedding, I received an unexpected letter, not from Jessica but from my mother. The handwriting on the envelope was shaky, the letter inside clearly written and rewritten multiple times. Catherine, it began, I do not expect forgiveness, but I hope you will read this completely before deciding whether to respond. She explained that my father had suffered a minor heart attack 3 months earlier, an event that had apparently triggered some serious reflection. They had begun attending family therapy, where their therapist had helped them recognize the toxic dynamic they had fostered between their daughters. We always favored Jessica, my mother admitted plainly. There is no excuse for it, though we have spent months trying to understand why. Perhaps because she demanded attention while you were always so self-sufficient. Perhaps because acknowledging your achievements would have meant recognizing our failures with her. None of these reasons justify how we treated you. She went on to explain that Jessica had refused to participate in therapy, instead moving across the country to start fresh after the scandal of our wedding day had followed her in our community. My parents were only now beginning to recognize the extent of her manipulation and their own complicity in it. "We do not expect to be welcomed back into your life," the letter concluded. "But we wanted you to know that we finally see the truth, far too late though it may be. We are deeply sorry for the pain we caused and the childhood we stole from you." I read the letter several times, emotions washing over me in waves, anger, vindication, grief for what could have been, and finally, a quiet acceptance. I showed it to Jackson, who held me as I cried for the little girl who had only ever wanted her parents to love her as much as they loved her sister. "You do not owe them a response," he reminded me gently. "Your healing does not depend on their recognition of the harm they caused." He was right, of course. Yet after several weeks of reflection and discussions with my therapist, I decided to write back, not to resume a relationship, but to acknowledge their first step and establish clear boundaries. "I appreciate your honesty," I wrote. "I am not ready for contact beyond this letter, and may never be. The harm done cannot be undone with apologies alone. I need time and space to continue my healing journey. Please respect this boundary as a first demonstration that you truly understand what went wrong." Surprisingly, they did respect my wishes. No further letters arrived, no surprise visits or holiday guilt trips. It was perhaps the first time in my life my parents had actually honored a boundary I had set. As for Jessica, I heard through mutual acquaintances that she had started over in California, telling a new set of friends a revised version of events where she was the victim of an unreasonable sister and ex-fiancé. The knowledge that she remained unchanged brought no satisfaction, only a renewed certainty that maintaining distance was the right decision. 2 years after our wedding day, Jackson and I received joyous news. We were expecting our first child. As I shared the ultrasound image with our circle of friends, I realized I had learned perhaps the most valuable lesson from all that had happened. Family is not defined by blood, but by love, respect, and mutual support. The painful events surrounding our wedding had freed me from a lifetime of seeking approval I would never receive. In losing the family I was born into, I had gained the clarity to build the family I deserved, one where every member was cherished equally, where achievements were celebrated without comparison, and where love was never conditional. Sometimes the most beautiful beginnings come after the most painful endings. I had to lose the family I was born into to truly appreciate the family I was meant to have. What painful endings have opened doors to your most beautiful beginnings? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please subscribe and share this video with someone who might need to hear that they deserve better too. Thank you for joining me on this journey of healing and self-discovery.